Here I am again at Compulsion 2013 with Kevin. Kevin, rather than me saying everything that's awesome about you, why don't you say everything that's awesome about you?
I could take all day.
I know.
All right, my name's Kevin Beimers. Should I be looking at the camera? Why not? I'll look at the camera.
Sounds good.
Okay. My name's Kevin Beimers. My last success in the mobile games market was a critically defamed Hector Badge of Carnage. It was a trilogy I worked on with Strandlooper Animation and Telltale Games, and it was about a filthy, wisecracking cop who couldn't be bothered to solve the cases that were put in front of him. It was a lot of fun. It was a nostalgic point-and-click adventure that threw you back to the days of the LucasArts wonders. And since then, I've actually become my own company. I now run Italic Pig, and my first venture is going to be a highbrow quantum physics game called Schrödinger's Cat and the Raiders of the Lost Quark.
Okay, awesome. The title alone leaves plenty to the imagination, obviously, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about Schrödinger's Cat and the Raiders of the Lost Quark, because that's an amazing title for
Thank
a
you.
game.
Schrödinger's Cat, it was an idea I originally cooked up back in probably about a decade ago when I was working in New York City, actually, as a freelancer for the Sci-Fi Channel. And when I was working there was sort of the idea was, let's get interesting things happening on the web now that this web thing has come along, and it's kind of interesting. So we were working on this content, and I came up with a few different ideas, and one of them was the idea of turning the thought experiment of Schrödinger's Cat into something that's actually kind of cool, because people talk about it. It's such a brilliant image of a cat that goes into a box. It's both alive and dead. But every image I've ever seen of it on popular physics, you read John Gribben's In Search of Schrödinger's Cat, or Robert Anton Wilson, and it's all just sort of it's a cat and it's a box, and it's like, the Photoshop tabby on top of some sort of clinical diagram of what a box with poison in it might look like. and it's sort of sad, because quantum physics is such a weird, topsy-turvy, arse-over-tea kettle world, and the whole point of the concept of Schrödinger's Cat as a thought experiment is to demonstrate how messed up that actually is. And I just thought that is a whole world that's ripe to be exploited, as what happens if you can mess with time, what happens if you can mess with gravity, what happens if you have this character that is physically powerful, but mentally average, indirectly solving the secrets of time and space.
Nice.
And here you've got this irony of the physicists on the outside all battering around ideas, and you've got a cat that's inside the box. And if any of the physicists had the guts to step inside that same box, they'd experience what he was experiencing, perhaps. But the cat is learning. And of course, there's no way he can convey this to the people on the outside. Now, in terms of the game, the scientist is more of a necessary evil. He's a bit of a plot device that pulls him out at inappropriate moments in the dialogue. But inside the game, the player controls a cat who can harness the power of time and space and use it to his own means.
Nice.
Right.
Okay, so it's a puzzle game, as I get it. It's kind of like a physics puzzle game?
Oh, all that stuff I say, and it's like, yeah, so it's a puzzle game.
I know.
No, it is.
I'm just going to boil that right down.
No, I mean, it has to be. It has to get down to something. And so I've been pitching it sort of as a combat platformer puzzler that it's a combination of Oddworld meets Lemmings, if I had to piggyback off two other wonderful games from my past.
Okay.
It's like Oddworld in the sense that it's a robust environment that's been created that involves the collection and the exploration a lot more than just speed and dexterity and that kind of a thing. So I like worlds that you can get lost in. As well, it's like Lemmings in that you have many different ways of solving the same problem. And in that sense, you can have favorites and you can have failures and you can try things more than once and realize, based on what you've got available to you, how you can actually get around an issue that's come up in your way. And in fact, it's the means of, once you've solved the problems, it gives you access to more problems to solve. Nice. So the more you play, the more you can play. This is specifically the Raiders of the Lost Quark game. Now, Schrödinger's Cat was developed on two levels. One was developed as this giant AAA game that involved every sort of facet of quantum physics jammed into a multi-dimensional world, and it was the sort of thing that no indie studio could ever put off the ground. And you know, I'd like to eventually use these smaller concepts, which are sort of splinter. Let's talk about time. Let's talk about gravity. Let's talk about elementary particles.
Yeah.
And focus entirely on those. What can we make out of a game that focuses on quarks and mesons and bosons and so on, and make it fun and make it cute and make it so you don't need a degree to play the game, but it's much funnier if you do.
Yeah. Okay, so if I'm sitting here now going, I must have this game. When can I expect the game? What formats will the game be on?
Well, I'm developing for tablet first, and by tablet, I'm iOS and Android. It's being developed in Unity. So Unity, part of the choice for that, I mean, it's going to be a 2D platformer, and Unity is primarily a 3D device that has 2D breakdown toolkits and things like that. And we thought Unity was the best choice to make because it has that, it's very ubiquitous. You know, if you needed to find another Unity developer, you can easily find one, whereas if you're looking for another Corona or like all these other, you've got, like, unbelievably, there's like a 2D development tool for every 2D developer out there, and somebody will say, I like XNA, I like Monogame, I like Corona, I like Gleed, I like Torque, and you sort of go, well, fair enough, I'll hire somebody who'll come on board, but if you suddenly got hit by a bus, can I find another one of you? And it's like, well, maybe. And so it's like, okay, we'll go with Unity then. So Unity, one of the beauties of Unity is it exports into a lot of different platforms. So it will be available iOS, Android, PC, Mac. I think will also go off onto Wii or PSN if we choose to become part of those developer networks, and I think we would. But part of the thing that is cool about the play of it is if you play most games that are made for multi-platform, I think most people tend to think console first, and then adapt that to the tablet. And as a result, you have these on-screen D-pads, or your thumbs get in the way, and the controls are kind of adapted and twisted, and they're not exactly intuitive to the controls of a tablet. I'd like to develop this specifically for the tablet, or for iPhone, the iPad Mini, the Nexus, that sort of thing. And in doing so, there's I want to call it a sort of a spell casting element. Maybe that's not the right term for it, but as opposed to going through menus and having bunches of buttons down the side to choose from all the different combinations of things and puzzles that you can do, I want more of your ability to call upon things with a series of finger swipes. And almost like you're drawing a symbol on screen, and that symbol represents the puzzle that you want to, or the solution you want to solve. You see, the way Raiders of the Lost Quark works, the Lemmings side to the thing, is that the story is you've been called to the particle zoo, and the particle zoo has gone completely awry. Think Jurassic Park on the day that the electricity goes down, right?
Okay.
So all of the particles are out of their environments, and they're all over the zoo, and they're running amok, and they're eating the patrons who have come to see them. You show up, Schrödinger's cat, the zoo's on lockdown, and you're now in the zoo sorting out everything, getting them back to their areas. Yes, so the bosons need to go back to the boson enclosure, and the gluons are back to the swamps and that sort of a thing. Your friends, your army, are the quarks. Now the quarks are almost like these little duck-like creatures. They only come up to your knees, and all of the particles are personified, or at least anthropomorphized. And so you've got these duck-like quarks or sheep-like quarks that each have their own abilities. And the primary quarks that you're working with are the ups, the downs, the tops, and the bottoms. And each of them have different abilities. The ups raise things up or move things. The downs drill down or destroy things. The tops form protection, and the bottoms form a foundation. So anything platform related will come from a bottom quark. Anything movement related will come from an up quark. And you combine quarks, 3 quarks will form some sort of matter that's unstable. So if you need to make a rising platform, you go 2 ups and a bottom. And if you need to make a missile that drills through a wall, you'd go an up and 2 downs, because you have a double destructive force going in a direction. So there's a funny logic that goes with all the different 20 different combinations that you can do. So the more quarks you collect, the more things you can do with the quarks that you have. But these quarks become your collectibles, and they also become your troops, and they become your skills, and they become your gold, and they become all that sort of thing. And so that's you running around with a whole bunch of colorful guys behind you, and the whole game's a little bit silly, but it's also a little bit cool.
That sounds amazing. When can I get it? When will it be in my hands?
I have got a schedule at the moment that puts it out around October, but don't quote me on that yet, because I'm a big, oh my God, what have I done? Okay, no, it's actually on the website it says October-ish.
It's just the important part.
It's just a great word, or a great suffix, because, you know, I have a solid idea of what the game to look like. I have an adaptable method of making the game bigger or smaller. Another nice feature to the whole thing is what I'm trying to do is build a replayable platformer. Yeah. And replayable, most of the time, the only reason to replay a platformer is because you liked it the first time. Yeah. But I would like to make it so that the puzzles and the rooms and the environments actually change in the order that they're put together. So it's almost like rather than building a level where you run and there's a brick and then there's 5 bricks and then there's a pipe and so on. I'm building something where, okay, that's one section, let's put it in the box, and then there's another section that's very tall, let's put it over here. Then you have another section that's kind of an L shape and it goes over here. And almost like you're putting the levels together at game initialization time as a bunch of Tetris pieces that all join together. So you start in this area and you're trying to get to there, and so it's 5 puzzles in between. But the next time you play it, you start here, and you might end up there, and it's 3 of the same puzzles, but 2 different puzzles. Yeah. So you got a grab bag of environments, a grab bag of cells that can be, so that it's impossible to make a walkthrough. You might have walkthroughs for particular areas. Oh, there's a tricky bit where there's a tall bit and a couple of bosons at the end. How do I get past that? But the idea of trying to make something that says you start here, you go up, you go right, you go up, you go right, and you're there, it doesn't work for everybody. So in that sense, it's a game that you play through once, you enjoyed it, you play through it a second time, you go, oh my God, this whole thing's different. And you've got another whole platformer open to you. And it might take 4 or 5 times before you start saying, hey, wait a minute, this was in the 3rd time I played it, but it's still the active collection and exploration and puzzle solving in many different ways that's going to get you there. So I think I've bridged a nice gap between the dream in my head of what the game could be and what's actually physically possible. You know, thinking on terms of both a programmer and a designer, you have to be able to think in both those realms in order to make something like this work. And I think it will. Plus, the subject matter being Schrödinger's cat, I do believe it's a game for gamers, because in the last talk that I did, I said Schrödinger's cat, and everybody in the room laughed. And you don't get that at a PTA meeting, and you don't get that when you're in a room full of
regular people.
Yeah, just you're taking your kids to ballet and you're talking to the other moms and you say, oh, I'm making a game about Schrödinger's cat. Ha! And they're like, what is that? And then you start going, right, well, there's a cat in a box in 1935, and they're like, I'm sorry, you lost me. And then you know that they might think it's cute, but
they might like the artwork, but
the folks here will go, yes, somebody's made a Schrödinger's cat action game, and it was somebody who knew what they were doing. Yeah. And that was the key. I was always afraid somebody else would do it, and they'd do a really crap job. And I'd be like, oh, you ruined Schrödinger's cat for everybody.
Why did you do that?
Yeah, so hopefully I won't spark that same effect in other people, because they'll go, hey, he got the bosons right. He got those right. Okay, yeah, I see where he's coming from. Start with the real physics, and then just branch out. Start asking the questions. Answer the questions that Stephen Hawking hasn't bothered to ask himself. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, so if people want to find out more information about Schrödinger's cat,
I think you've asked me 3 times that question, and I keep going different areas.
So if people want to find out more about this game,
yes,
and they're like, right, where can I get the latest updates or the latest how do I put it, the latest information? The latest blog entries. Exactly. There is a blog. Oh, really? Yes. ItalicPig.com is the website. At Italic Pig is the Twitter account. I am not only director and writer of the thing, I'm also doing the character art, and I'm the social media guy. And that's kind of the way indie game development works. I would love to have somebody else who's doing full-time social media, but if you join up and I don't say hi until later, you'll understand why, because I'm very busy. But I'll try to get on the blog.
couple times a week just to let you know how production is going. Schedule, it's the animator's meant to start the beginning of next week, so we're gonna actually start seeing some characters come together and jumping and maybe little videos from time to time. So good things are happening. It's a dream come true project that I hope to make this one and then a whole series of sequels, and then eventually take over the entire game industry in all dimensions.
With a throne and a crown and a
Yeah, I didn't put that in the business plan, but it's actually masked under a social media guy, that budget actually earmarked for the crown.
Nice. All right. Thank you very much for your time today, Kevin.
No problem at all. Thank you for